Hey there, fantasy owners. LTC Fantasy here. Not sure if you're chiming in watching via YouTube or listening via podcast, but really do appreciate the watch or listen no matter how you're streaming the episode. Before we get started, do want to mention that we do have a partnership with 247clash.com. Link is in the description. It's a pools type player versus player fantasy game that's pretty much made winnable for anyone there. So if you do go to www.247clash.com, at the top of the homepage you'll see a how to play link. It's a 50-second video, explains the game pretty good, and hopefully sign up using referral code LTC, as that'll help out our show behind the scenes here, and hopefully you'll win some cash. Do note it is for Canadian residents only at this time. That might change in the future, but for right now it is for Canadian residents only. So today's our Week 20 midweek waiver wire episode. So we will look at some lower ownership goalies, defensemen, and forwards who are either on hot streaks or gaining some opportunity from injury there to hopefully help your fantasy roster not only for this week but some future weeks as well there. So basically, we'll get right into it. Some goaltenders to look at right now. Possibly look at Jake Allen from Montreal, owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues. He's won 3 of his last 4 starts. In those 4 starts, he also had 1 shutout in there. He also had 1 stinker in there, so kind of balances out a little bit. But he is playing well in a tandem right now, and he is a little bit risky with the season Montreal's having. Unfortunately, they're not doing quite as well as a lot of people had hoped, but he could be an okay third option if you're in a pinch there. Another one is from Ottawa. Maybe look at Cam Talbot, owned in 60% of Yahoo leagues. He's back from injury. He has 1 win so far in 3 starts there. He's going to start the majority of the games down the stretch there with Forsberg out. They might give Sogard a little bit of a showing, but Talbot should get the majority of the starts there, and could be an option for you depending how desperate you are in need of goaltending. And the last one's Phoenix Copley from LA there, owned in 57% of Yahoo leagues. He started 6 of the last 7 games. He has 2 goals or less in 4 of those starts. So he is playing well, not quite getting the W's. LA's kind of stopped scoring a little bit for him of late, but overall he is getting a lot of starts. He is getting a decent GAA overall, so could be an option for you if you need a goalie there. Before we do get into the defensemen, do want to ask you, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're trying to grow this channel, grow this podcast, so need your support there. So hopefully you're getting some value out of these episodes, and it's helping secure some wins for you in your fantasy hockey leagues. So we will get into some defensemen. The first one off the board is maybe look at Cam Fowler, owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, top power play unit there. He has 8 points his last 7 games, and in those 7 games, he's +4, also has 11 blocks in there. So he's on a roll of late, and he does get points in bunches there, so he's a decent depth piece, especially for a scoring league if you're in one. Another one to look at maybe in Montreal is Michael Matheson, owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, top power play unit. He has 9 points his last 9 games. In those 9 games, he's +7, 21 shots on goal, 12 hits, and 14 blocks in there. So he's been basically playing really, really well of late there, and could be a solid depth piece, especially in your deeper Cats leagues. Next one to look at maybe is Bowen Byram from Colorado there, owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues, playing second pairing, second power play unit, and he has 8 points the last 9 games. In those 9 games, he's also +7, couple power play points, 18 hits, 17 blocks. He's really been very solid since coming back from injury there, and if he is available, he should definitely be good for you going forward, especially with Makar still out there. Next one's over in LA. Maybe look at Sean Dursey, owned in 33% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the second pairing for the Kings there, second power play unit, and he has 6 points his last 7 games. Couple of power play points in there and 13 shots on goal. So he's back on a roll after that slump there. We do know that he does have offensive upside, so he should be an all right depth piece in scoring leagues. Next one's over in Arizona. Maybe look at Juuso Välimäki, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues. Playing top pairing, top power play unit there. He has 8 points his last 9 games. 4 points on the power play. 16 shots, a goal, and 15 blocks. Pretty nice waiver wire pickup for the Coyotes, eh? Anyways, he's doing all right in an expanded role and should be an okay depth add in your deeper leagues. Next one's over in Toronto now. It does say Washington, but he got traded after I made the graphic and before I'm recording this episode. But Eric Gustafsson, owned in 45% of Yahoo leagues. Not sure what pairing and what power play unit he'll be playing on with his new team there. Probably hasn't even landed with the team yet. But overall, he has 11 points his last 10 games, 5 of those being on the power play, so definitely a power play specialist, 19 shots on goal. He's hot again. It should be a good add in scoring leagues there. Next one for you is Samuel Girard from Colorado, owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, second power play unit there, and he has 7 points his last 10 games with 13 hits and 20 blocks. It's been an okay offensive late, 7 points in 10 games, pretty damn good there, and he is helping out in other cats as well there, so he could bring value in some formats for you. Next one is Kevin Shattenkirk over in Anaheim, owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues, playing second pairing, second power play unit. He's put up 5 points the last 7 games with 14 shots on goal and 11 blocks in those 7 games. He is quite streaky, so there definitely is risk involved with Shattenkirk, but in a real deep league, he could bring some depth for you. Next one's Adam Boquist over in Columbus, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues, usually on the top pairing, top power play unit there. He has 6 points his last 6 games, half of those points being on the power play, 3 power play points there, 10 blocks in those 6 games there. He missed last game with a lower body injury, so do check his status. But when he is available, he'll be a pretty decent depth piece in scoring leagues. Next one's over in Calgary. Look at Noah Hannafin, owned in 60% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 7 points his last 10 games with 3 points on the power play and 15 blocks on there. He's been consistent for a while there, quite a while. And if he is available, he should be a pretty steady depth add. Next one I had was Eric Brandstrom from Ottawa, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, but ignore him. Sanderson is back there, so that really hurts Brandstrom's fantasy value there. Now he's more of, if you're in a pinch in a real deep league on a light night kind of a play, not really a long-term fix where you're going to use him for a week or two anymore there. And the last one is Jake McCabe, another new D-man for Toronto. They've been making lots of moves. He's owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues. Prior to the trade, he had 3 points his last 5 games. And in those 5 games, he had 16 hits and 13 blocks. He's on a new team. He doesn't provide a lot of offense, but he does get you hits and blocks. So in a deeper Cats league, that's where you may get some value out of McCabe there. Now we'll move along to some forwards. Start off in Chicago. Maybe look at Max Domi, listed as center, left winger, right winger, owned in 38% of Yahoo leagues. Playing top line, top power play unit for the Hawks there. He has 14 points on a 7-game point streak. He's on an absolute tear right now, and his ownership is rising fast there. It seems like every time I check it is higher, so it's probably a lot higher than 38 right now. If he is available, grab him if you can. He's been that hot. Next one's over in Calgary. Maybe look at Dylan Dubé, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 28% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing on the top line, second power play unit. He's been good. He's put up 10 points his last 8 games, 3 of those points being on the power play, 16 shots on goal and 13 hits in those 8 games. So he's been decent, and he should provide some value in deeper leagues especially. Going over to Colorado, maybe look at JT Compher, listed as center right winger, owned in 32% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line, second power play unit, and he has 9 points in his last 5 games there. So quite a role. In those 5 games, he's +9 with 14 shots on goal, also 9 blocks. That's a lot of blocks for a forward there. So he's been really good the last couple of weeks, and he should be an all-right depth piece going forward for you. Next, we'll go over to New Jersey. Maybe look at Dawson Mercer, listed as center right winger, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing top line, second power play unit there. He's put up 10 points in a 6-game point streak, so he's been on fire there. 8 of those points have been goals. 8 goals in those 6 games. In those 6 games, he's also +6, 21 shots on goal, and 4 blocks. He's on a tear right now, and he'll be good in pretty much any format the way he's rolling. Next one's over in Calgary. Maybe look at Michael Backlund, listed as a center, owned in 40% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing third line, second power play unit, and he has 12 points his last 10 games. And in those 10 games, he's +7, 38 shots on goal, and 19 hits. He's been very solid, really good in quite a few categories there, and be a good depth piece going forward for you. Next one's over in Detroit. Maybe look at Robbie Fabry, listed as left winger, right winger, up to 16% owned, playing third line, but on the top power play unit. He's been pointless the last 4 games, but before that he put up 9 points in a 5-game stretch there. So he is very streaky, but if you are in a real deep league, he could bring some depth value for your roster. Next one, another new addition in Toronto, but he's been there a week now, but Ryan O'Reilly, listed as a center, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line, second power play unit, and he has 5 points his last 5 games, and in those 5 games he's +3, 12 shots on goal, 52 face-off wins, usually in double digits and face-off wins every game, so if that's counted in your league, definitely add some value. He's a little streaky, but he seems to be fitting in nicely in Toronto there, so if he is available, you should get value out of adding him to your roster. Next one's over in Nashville. Maybe look at Thomas Novak, listed as a center, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, but playing on that second line, top power play unit there, and he has 11 points in a 5-game point streak. The kid's really hot right now. 3 of those points being on the power play, 10 shots on goal in those 5 games. As I mentioned, the kid's been hot of late and getting more opportunities, so he could be a nice add in your deeper leagues. Might be a little bit of a steal for you. Over in Seattle, maybe look at Jordan Eberle, listed as a right winger, owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the top line, top power play unit there, and he has 9 points his last 7 games, 3 of those points being on the power play and 16 shots on goal in there. He's quietly putting together a pretty decent season there, and should be an alright add in your deeper scoring leagues. Over in Vancouver, maybe look at Andrei Kuzmenko, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 49% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit, and he has 10 points his last 7 games. In those 7 games, he has 18 shots on goal there. He's on a heater right now, and he does get points in bunches. He'll be a very good add for you in your scoring leagues. Over in Carolina, maybe look at Seth Jarvis, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 33% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, second power play unit there, and he has 7 points his last 5 games, and in those 5 games he's +8, 19 shots on goal. He has snapped out of a drought. He's been pretty good the last 5 games there. He is a bit streaky, but could be a good add in your deeper scoring leagues. Over in Arizona, maybe look at Nick Schmaltz, listed as a center right winger, owned in 33% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit there, and he has 11 points his last 8 games, 3 points on the power play there, 16 shots on goal. He's been pretty good when healthy this year, and he'll be a very solid add for you in your scoring leagues. Next one's over in Vancouver. Maybe look at Anthony Beauvillier, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 14% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top line for the Canucks and top power play unit. He's put up 11 points the last 9 games, 3 of those being on the power play, 24 shots on goal and 9 hits in those 9 games. So he's liking the added opportunity since coming over to the Canucks, obviously, playing with some pretty solid line mates there, and could be a nice add going forward. Over in Buffalo, maybe look at Casey Middlestad, listed as a center, owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues, playing third line, second power play unit, and he's put up 9 points the last 8 games. In those 8 games, also +5. When you're giving up as many goals as Buffalo has been, being a plus player is probably a good thing. He is streaky, but better of late. He'd be an okay depth piece in your real deep scoring leagues. Back to Detroit, maybe look at Tyler Bertuzzi, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing top line, top power play unit for the Red Wings there. He has 8 points his last 9 games. Out of those points, 3 have been on the power play, 24 shots on goal, 9 hits, and 6 blocks in there. It's been pretty good for a while, and you should get value if you do decide to add him to your roster. Over in Montreal, maybe look at Mike Hoffman, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing second line, top power play unit there, and he has 9 points his last 9 games, 4 of those being on the power play, and 27 shots on goal. He's streaky, but he's been decent recently there, and in a real deep scoring league, he might provide some depth for you. Over in Tampa there, maybe look at Anthony Cirelli, listed as center left winger, owned in 17% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line for the Bolts there. He has 9 points his last 9 games, and in those 9 games, +5, 20 shots on goal and 8 blocks. He's been pretty good these last few weeks there, and should be an alright deeper league add for you. Over in LA, maybe look at Victor Arvidsson, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 28% of Yahoo leagues, plays second line, second power play unit for the Kings there. He has 7 points his last 7 games, 4 of those points being on the power play, getting a lot of production out of that second PP unit for the Kings of late anyways. 21 shots on goal, 7 blocks. He was cold, but he's back to being consistent the last few weeks there. So with that, he should be a fairly safe add going forward. Over in Minnesota, maybe look at Ryan Hartman, listed as center right winger, owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing top line, second power play unit, and he has 6 points his last 5 games. And in those 5 games, he's +4, 17 shots on goal, also 7 blocks in there. He's been pretty good of late on that top line there. Gotta like his line mates of Zuccarello and Kaprizov there. So he should provide some decent depth going forward. Going over to Columbus, maybe look at Boone Jenner, listed as a center, owned in 39% of Yahoo leagues, plays top line, top power play unit there. He has 8 points his last 8 games, and in those 8 games, a couple points on the power play, 34 shots on goal, 18 hits, and 11 blocks. He's been doing it all recently pretty much, and he'll be a really nice add in a Cats league if he's available. Over in Winnipeg, maybe look at Blake Wheeler, listed as a right winger, owned in 52% of Yahoo leagues. He's playing second line, top power play unit, and he's put up 7 points his last 9 games. 3 of those 7 points being on the power play with 9 hits and 5 blocks chipped in there. He's cooled some, but overall he's had a very solid season. So he should be a nice add if he is available in your leagues. Over in Nashville, maybe look at Mikael Granlund, listed as center right winger, owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit, and he has 8 points his last 7 games, 3 of those being on the power play and 17 shots on goal there. He's been good of late, and he should be decent value in your scoring leagues. Over for the Islanders, maybe look at Anders Lee, listed as a left winger, owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues, plays top line, top power play unit there. He has 6 points his last 6 games, a couple of those being on the power play, and in those 6 games also has 14 shots on goal, 10 hits, and 4 blocks in there. He's streaky, but he's been better of late. So if he is available, could be an okay add in a Cats league. The last one's over in Calgary. Maybe look at Jacob Pelche, listed as a left winger, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line, second power play unit there, and he has 5 points his last 5 games. And in those 5 games, he has 3 points on the power play, 9 shots on goal, and 5 blocks. He's been decent the last little bit. Not a lot of runway with him, but he could be a depth add in real deep leagues for you. That's it for today's episode. If you're watching via YouTube, please remember to hit like, hit subscribe, remember that notification bell. If you're listening via podcast, remember to give us a 5-star review. That really does help support this show and allows it to grow there. Don't forget to check out www.247clash.com. If you do decide to sign up, use referral code LTC, as that does help us out behind the scenes there. And enjoy trade deadline. That's getting pretty close here. A lot of moves coming on. And we'll talk to you soon there, fantasy owners.